Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. It's our England preview for the 2022 World Cup, obviously being held in Qatar. In this video, we'll talk about the tournament as a whole, Gareth Southgate's squad selection, how far we think England will go in this tournament, and what our starting 11 will be for the Iran game. So me and Dennis are joined by Gatesy, who's from the fantastic West Ham channel Forge from Iron. If you haven't already, please subscribe to them. And if you're new around here, subscribe to Garage Football as well, for vlogs, watch-alongs, and other football content like this. So. All right. Well, thanks for joining, lads. So let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the World Cup as a whole. So, Gates, obviously, the first game was earlier today. Host nation Qatar and Ecuador. Ecuador winning 2-0. But what are your thoughts on the tournament as a whole? Are you looking forward to it? Are you still trying to get used to a World Cup starting in November, all that kind of stuff?
Do you know what? I'm still not that into it. I mean, I say I'm not that into it. I know England haven't kicked a ball yet, but I just think that this thing of having the Premier League and then a week later, bang, you're into the World Cup. It just doesn't seem right. Do you know what I mean?
It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm used to sort of like having sort of like the Premier League come to its conclusion, and then there's sort of like a little bit of a lull, and then bang, the World Cup's there. And the thing is sort of like, because the World Cup normally is in the summer, it's normally bright and hot and all the rest of it, and it's sort of like we've got a World Cup and it's cold and it's drab and dreary. It just seems really weird.
No, agreed, mate. Yeah, it's weird. Usually you have some sort of build up. A couple of weeks, the season finishes, as you say, and you're looking forward to it, and there's a real fanfare, and there just hasn't been. Obviously,
No.
It's only been a week since the last league game for a lot of the European nations, and just obviously we've got to bring up obviously the problems in Qatar, the human rights, and the workers who sadly died building the stadium. So I feel you add all that together, and it just there hasn't been that real buzz about the World Cup. And plus, I was quite surprised by the first game about how open it was. I thought the tournament. I hope it stays like that, because I thought the tournament would be quite sluggish and quite slow, and a lot of maybe 0-0s or 1-0s. But I mean, the first game, can't really base on Qatar's quality because they were absolutely terrible. But I mean, hopefully there'll be nice open games like it was in the first game. So what do you think, Dennis, of the tournament as a whole? Are you looking forward to it?
I mean, I really wasn't. I really wasn't until today. I don't know what it was. I watched it. I mean, I'll be honest with you. I had it on iPlayer with 5 Live commentary, which I guess sort of makes it feel a bit better because you feel more the crowd. But I actually was like, you know what, this is actually pretty nice. Again, it was rather open. We haven't had an absolute abomination of a team at a World Cup in a while, and it's just fun to watch. I'm just going to be no disrespect to Qatar, they're doing the best they can at a World Cup they probably don't deserve to be at. Not taking aside all the controversy of having it, the host nation, a lot of last few host nations haven't been. You've had Brazil and Russia who war withstanding you would expect to be at the World Cup.
Qatar 50th in the world.
I mean, and South Africa when they hosted it were no slouches. They weren't great, but they made a game of every game they were in. You had Germany before then, Japan, South Korea. All decent teams. It's the first time a host nation that has been absolutely horrific, with the exception of Panama last World Cup. That's what it's a bit like Panama. Like Panama was fun, entertaining. It was like, Sabutio, but half the players had fallen over.
At least Panama actually qualified, though, Dennis?
Yeah, but Panama qualified legitimately rather than the host nation. It was entertaining, and obviously, former West Ham player Enner Valencia should have had a hat trick. Really, I still don't understand how the first goal was disallowed. But it was an open game. I don't expect all other games to be open, but there are, like, for example, Canada at the World Cup for the first time in my lifetime, and for example, a couple of Canadian mates I got from university are absolutely they're unhappy that they've gone to such a controversial World Cup, but they're just happy to be there. It's the first time they have seen in their lifetime the Canadian, they call it soccer team, at the World Cup. So a little bit of a shout out to them. But also, it's, I'm looking at the draw. We'll go into this a little bit later, but looking at the draws and stuff like that, I think actually we have a better chance than some people give us credit, as much as there's some negativity around the tactics. Because should the groups pan out how you expect, we actually have a relatively straightforward to the last 8. Famous last words, we'll now lose to Iran tomorrow. But yeah, so I'm actually getting a little bit into it. Like it had that real first game buzz of just an absolute underdog against a semi-decent South American side. So yeah, after the game, I am looking forward to it now. Do take on the point Gatesy said about watching West Ham against Leicester last weekend, and now suddenly we're at a World Cup does feel frankly bizarre, but this is the world we live in. Thank you, Sepp Blatter.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah,
Who of course had nothing to do with it. He didn't want it here either. So
yeah, he's definitely in the clear. So anyway, well, let's talk about the squad selection. Gareth Southgate named his 26-man squad a couple of weeks ago. Plenty of obviously speculation about who was going to be in and who was going to be left out. And ultimately, he made his decision. So, Dennis, back to you. I mean, what are your thoughts on Gareth Southgate's squad selection? Are you happy? Would you have brought anyone else in?
I would have left Jordan Henderson at home.
The headline act
would have said Jordan Henderson stayed at home. I don't quite know how Ivan Toney has been left home, unless it was a case of they knew the charge was coming up, so he said, "All right, you can't select him," because Ivan Toney's been electric this season for Brentford. I mean, a lot is made about Maguire's selection. But a lot of the times with a World Cup squad, I mean, okay, I joke about leaving Henderson at home, but you've got to look at the whole squad and some players are brought not necessarily to play, but they're brought there for what they bring off the field as well. Like Jamie Carragher in the 2010 World Cup, there were loads of better centre-backs than him, but he got brought along for that experience to sort of, especially after Rio got injured, in order to add some stability to the back line. I'm not really sure, other than Ivan Toney, which there might be a reason for it. There's no one that really sticks out to me as having, oh my God, I can't believe they're not going. There's arguments to maybe take a different centre-back in place of Maguire, and I'm sure they could be valid, but it's a bit of a rubber for me because obviously Southgate sees Maguire as his leader, and it's Southgate's prerogative, in my opinion, to pick who he thinks his leaders are. The only one that screams out to me is, why the hell did Ivan Toney not get taken? But maybe it could be something to do with what's happened in recent days.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, no, fair enough, mate. Yeah, I was quite happy with the squad. I think it would have been an absolute farce, a travesty, riots in the street if James Maddison wasn't at least in the squad. He deserves it. He's played quite well for the past year, 18 months or so, so he deserves, well, should have got more caps already for England, but he deserves to be in the squad. I agree with you about Toney. Especially as much as Calvin Phillips is a good player, he's barely played for Man City this season. He's been injured, so I would have maybe that would have been a swap. I think Tammy Abraham's quite unlucky as well to not be in the squad at least. But yeah, I think on the whole, I'm fairly happy with it. I think we just obviously will limit at centre back, but that's not Gareth Southgate's problem. It's just the form of the players we've selected. It's that best of a pretty average bunch at the moment. I won't say they're bad players, but it's nowhere near the calibre of obviously Sol Campbell, John Terry, Rio Ferdinand, Ledley King, James
Woodgate.
Woodgate. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I was fairly happy with it. You agree with that, Gatesy?
Yeah, I mean, the one that sort of stood out for me as I couldn't quite get my head around it was Calvin Phillips, because I don't think he played a minute of Premier League football this season.
He has, just not many. A handful of minutes.
It's like we're taking someone to a World Cup on the basis of that. I think it's a hell of a risk. And don't get me wrong, I thought he was outstanding at the last Euros alongside Declan Rice. I get it, but I think that it's a hell of a risk. And who would we have taken in his place? I don't know. I mean, sort of like Southgate probably would have wanted to try and take another central midfielder if he felt that Phillips wasn't up to the mark. He clearly does. So, and who would have been sort of like a realistic sort of central midfield option? I mean,
Ward-Prowse is the only one I could think of.
Yeah, probably Ward-Prowse is the only one, but other than that, there's probably not too many candidates. I mean, obviously, as West Ham fans, we would have liked to have seen Jared Bowen in there, but to be perfectly honest with you, on his form, there's absolutely no way that you could say that he should be in there. But then again, like I say, Calvin Phillips has got on there on the basis of no form whatsoever. So the one thing I will say is I think Gareth Southgate is taking a bit of a risk on. If you look, I think he's taken 9 defenders, of which only one of them is a natural left footer, and that's Luke Shaw. I think that's a risk. I think that's very, very unbalanced for me. I think he should have taken at least one extra left footer. And when Ben Chilwell got the injury that put him out, I was quite surprised that Aaron Cresswell's name wasn't mentioned. You know, he's natural left-footed. He's got England experience, and I don't care what anyone says. Yes, he's lost pace, but his delivery is still on point. He's still, you know, defensively, he's pretty sound. You know, so I think he should have been, when Chilwell got sort of knocked out, I think he should have been in the conversation, but never even got a mention. I found that quite disappointing.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chilwell would have been a shoo-in for the squad if he wasn't injured, but you know, unfortunately, he got a bad injury again, which is a shame for Ben. He's been really unlucky last year or so with injuries. All right, great. Well, let's go move on to how we think England will do in the tournament. Well, I like to think we all would assume that England will get out of this group. But Gatesy, back to you. So, how far do you think England are? Well, first of all, where do you think England are going to finish in the group, and from there, where do you think we'll end up?
Oh well, we should win it. Let's not make any. And this is not.
Yeah.
If anyone watches this and thinks English arrogance or anything like that, well, England should win that group. On paper, they should win that group. Problem is, you don't play football on paper; you play it on grass.
Exactly.
So, the Wales game will be obviously that will be a local derby, and form and everything else goes out the window. It's who wants it more, or who has the slice of luck on the day that will win it through.
Especially as that's the last group game as well, Gates.
Yeah. The United States, they're a team that can blow hot and cold. They can one game look absolutely sensational, and then the next game you're not quite sure if they even know what a football's there for. Iran's a bit of an unknown quantity. I mean, and the one thing I will say is I think a lot of people thought that they would have an edge in the sense of they would be more used to those sort of conditions than our players would be. But the interesting thing is, because obviously they said about air-conditioned stadiums when they won the rights to host this tournament, and I was listening to the radio yesterday, and there was a reporter there was a test event at one of the stadiums yesterday as we record this, and the TalkSport presenter, and this was probably about 2:00 in the afternoon our time, so I don't know what that was in Qatar, but he said he was in this air-conditioned stadium and he said he was wearing a jacket. He was cold. So I'm not quite sure that maybe Iran won't have that slight edge over us at all. So we should take that care of them. The United States, like I say, that's a bit of an awkward one, and Wales, you're never quite sure. So I think we should win the group, but whether we will remains to be seen.
And then how far do you think we'll go if we get a?
I think, look, a pass score for me, I think, is quarterfinals. I think if we make it any further than the quarterfinals, we've done well.
So you think quarters for you then?
Yeah, like I say, I'm gonna say if we don't make the quarters, then for me it's a disappointment. If we make the quarters, it's at least a pass score. And if we go beyond that, then we, like I say, on the basis of our form since the Euros, I think you'd have to say that's an incredible achievement if we get to the last four or even beyond.
Yeah, fair dues, mate. Dennis, your thoughts, mate?
Well, as I said, ditto on the group. I think it'll be a lot closer than most people are saying. Like, you know, Iran are no slouches. They're ranked 20th in the world. Admittedly, they haven't exactly been playing world-class opponents. Wales always give us a good game. And again, America have got some really talented individuals and do tend to sort of have a few shocks at the World Cup. I remember like when they absolutely rumbled Portugal in 2002. Admittedly, that Portuguese side was performed terribly, but points still stood. But as I said, you say quarterfinals par. Anything other than quarterfinal, below quarterfinals, is an absolute disgrace in my opinion, considering we win. Should we win the group, we get the runners up of Group A, which will be one of Ecuador, Senegal without Mane, or Qatar, and any England team worth their salt should be beating one of those three teams. If we somehow slip up, we're probably playing the Dutch, and this Dutch side are, well, them and Brazil are probably my two picks for the World Cup. And I do in the things they meet in the semi-finals, so that will be the real final. Then the thingy. But if we hit the quarterfinals, we're in all likelihood we're likely to get France. This French team have got injuries and they're all in fighting. So you should back us to get to the semi-finals there if we're that good. quarterfinal isn't necessarily par. Quarterfinal is the minimum expectation based on our draw. Our draw is actually really favourable compared to some. Like we miss Argentina, we miss Brazil out, we miss Germany, we miss Holland until the final. Like we're in the easy bracket, in the easy half, where the toughest teams are France, Spain, and Portugal. All of which I think we're capable of beating at the minute. If we beat them, remains to be seen. So for me, I'm going to go for a slightly ambitious semi-final prediction. But if we don't make the quarterfinal, it's horrendous in my opinion, based on that.
Yeah, fair dues, mate. Yeah, I think. I actually fancy going for the semis. I'm not actually too bothered about the form from this year. It's all about in the tournament, and obviously the last two tournaments we've done really, really well. We've had it for, especially under Sven-Goran Eriksson, where we'd like breeze through the qualifying and the friendlies, and then get to the tournament, get to the quarters, and really underperform and play rubbish. So I think this England team has made a sterner stuff, as proven in the obviously in Russia and sort of at home last year. So I'd fancy this, to get out of the group and finish top. Unbeaten, I'm going to go with, and then assuming Netherlands top group A, I think we'll play probably Ecuador or Senegal based on Qatar's performance today. So I'd fancy us to get through against either of them, and then all likely will be France. But as Dennis, you said, they got a load of injuries. One of probably their biggest one is Karim Benzema is out of the tournament. So that's a huge blow for them. Obviously, they got Mbappe and some other world-class players, but I don't think this French team was as good as 4 years ago, for example. So I don't think that's an unwinnable game for us if we do play them in the quarters. And obviously from there, you never know. But I think I'm going to go England. I'm going to go semis again for England, and then I think this will probably be Gareth Southgate's last tournament. That won't be a bad way for him to say goodbye, personally. So semis for me. Right, okay. So let's finish off with what our starting 11s are going to be for the Iran game. So we've all picked our own starting 11. So Dennis, you want to go first? So what's your formation, and what 11 have you picked?
Well, I think it has to be Pickford in goal, because Pickford for England, Pickford's improved at Everton, but also Pickford for England is just another animal, and will go to another player that is just a completely other animal when they put on an England shirt. Like Pickford was a huge part of us reaching the final of the Euros, in my honest opinion. Absolutely solid all tournament. I'm then going to go controversial and go with a back three. And in that will be Eric Dyer, who I think's been brilliant for Tottenham so far. I would then put Cody alongside him, because he's very good in a back three and shown at Wolverhampton. And considering it's Iran, and considering maybe it's a bit of a confidence booster, there's going to be a lot of angry reactions to the comments, but Harry Maguire starts in this back three.
Yeah.
Based on that, I'll then have Luke Shaw and Trippier as the wing backs. Luke Shaw being the only person that can play left back in this team, as pointed out before, and Trippier because he's in the absolute form of his life at Newcastle. Central midfield absolutely rocks itself down. Both of which are twice the player of Jordan Henderson. Jude Bellingham and Declan Rice will be starting in central midfield, with Gallagher being the preferred substitute, and Henderson probably, ahead of Phillips based on fitness. And then I would have, and this may be a bit of a controversial take, but I'd have a front three of, purely because of the form he's in at City, I'd have Foden, I'd have Harry Kane up top, and I'd have Raheem Sterling, who is just another animal in an England shirt. However, for another game, I will be starting Saka ahead of Foden later in the tournament. But for the first game, I would leave Saka out and keep him fresh, give him a week rest. He's been playing week in, week out for Arsenal. But moving forward, he'll be the main man in the front three.
Yeah, fair enough. Obviously, Dennis, we were there for the Germany game at Wembley about a month ago, and the Nations League, and we were there, and obviously I think Maguire was at fault for both goals. He was really outsought. So do you think it's a bit of a risk starting him, though?
It's a risk, however, in a game, in Iran being the easiest game we're probably going to get at the World Cup, that's why I would put him in. I mean, the other option at centre-back, you put John Stones in. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't think John Stones has been playing that much for Man City. I could be wrong.
In and out the side.
Yeah, so it's more to do with consistently playing as well, because obviously he hit the ground running. As we said, ditto with Calvin Phillips not being anywhere near the starting 11. And equally, then you've got options off the bench. You can bring on Grealish or Maddison or Rashford in the attack, or Saka and even Wilson. I mean, that's 5 players on the bench there that can mix things up in your attack. It's more, like we said, the risk is going to be at the back of who do you play, because there's not, with the exception of Dyer and Cody, there's not really many our centre-backs choices. I mean, we left Tarkowski at home. That's the only other person I could think of. So for experience and the fact that he's been playing week in, week out, I'm going to start Maguire ahead of Stones in a back 3.
All right, nice one. All right, Gatesy, what 11 have you picked and what formation are you going for?
Okay, well, this is, like I say, this is not necessarily what I'm suspecting Gareth Southgate will go with. This is if I was picking the team. So I would go Pickford in goal. I don't really see that at the minute you can go too far wrong with Jordan Pickford. He's got his detractors, but I believe he is England's number 1. Back 4, I would go with Luke Shaw as the left back, and I would go Kieran Trippier as the right back. And the centre backs, I would personally pick Ben White alongside John Stones. I then have Declan Rice playing as the midfield anchor. Just in front of him, I would put Mason Mount and Phil Foden. I'd play him in the central midfield area. And then up front, I would go Marcus Rashford on the left, Bukayo Saka on the right, and Harry Kane as the number 9.
Oh, good stuff. So no Jude Bellingham for you, no?
No.
Any reasons for that? He's been a regular for the past 10 games or whatever.
He has, but I think... Like I say, I just think that Mount and I'd like to have a look at Mount and Foden as central midfield options. I think that Bellingham will get plenty of opportunities in this tournament. I think that they're a bigger fish to fry, and that will come in the next 2 games. Iran, let's be honest, this should be, whatever team we put out, this should be 3 points. So I would probably save Bellingham for more tougher challenges ahead.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. And Ben White, I mean, obviously he's played a lot for Arsenal this season, but mainly as a right back. I mean, is that a risk?
He has.
Centre back.
Yeah, no, I think he's perfectly comfortable wherever you play him. I think he looks good at right back. He looks good at centre back. I don't think it would be a problem to put him alongside John Stones. I mean, I did sort of should I go Harry Maguire? But again, I don't really think that the form he's shown this season has been anything to sort of shout about. So, and the reason why I went the 2 guys alongside Kane is I just think that they've got raw pace and trickery that Iran just won't be able to cope with, and they will get pulled aside. Their defenders will get pulled apart by those 2 sort of like down the flanks, and it will create so many opportunities for Harry Kane, and he'll make hay while the sun shines on that.
Good stuff. All right. Okay. So it's time for my side. So I'm going to go with a 4-3-3, very similar to how Man City play. So Pickford in goal. Completely agree with the reasons you guys are given. No Sam Johnson as Dennis, as JP said last year, which I still can't get over. So back 4 of Trippier and Shaw, as you guys have said. Stones I've gone with. And the other centre back I found really a real struggle. I mean, if Maguire was anywhere near the form, he'd be a shoo-in, but that sort of game against Germany has really put me off in his form for Man United, where he's barely played, has he? So I've gone with Cody, actually, alongside Stones. He's played in a back 2 all of this season alongside Tarkowski at Everton. So this myth of that you can't play in a back 4 is a load of rubbish, in my opinion. So I'm going to go with Cody alongside Stones. Declan Rice, obviously, in front of the back 4, along with Bellingham and Foden just in front of them too. So there's more as a City do it. They've Rodgers and De Bruyne and someone else alongside. So we've got Rice, Bellingham, and Foden, and the front 3 of Saka on the right. He's been great for obviously Arsenal, and Dennis obviously he changed the game when he come on against Germany on that right. And none of this putting Saka as a left wing back. That's a load of rubbish in my opinion. He's got to play on the right if he does play. Harry Kane's obviously up front, the captain, and the other winger. I found again this was a struggle. I was thinking of. Putting Foden there on the left, Grealish, Rashford's been in great form, but I'm going to go with Raheem Sterling. He was fantastic for England in the Euros, and there's similar questions about his place last year as well, and he ended up having a brilliant tournament. Been okay for Chelsea, not without setting the world alight, but I think with him and Kane have got a good partnership for England last sort of 4 years or so, really. So Saka, Kane, and Sterling up front, but plenty of options on the bench. So yeah, pretty happy with that. But to be fair, I think I would have a similar side for the other two games as well, because we should be on the front foot and have as many attacking players as we can. Once we get into the knockout stage, I would consider, as you, Dennis, playing the back three, which I think Southgate will do. But I think we, got to get as many attacking players as we can in the group stage for me.
Yeah, I mean, for the record, I totally forgot Ben White was in the squad. So probably would possibly maybe play him ahead of Maguire, with the caveat of he hasn't played right back, but let's see how he does against Iran. Iran, as I said, I expect us to get 3 points, but I don't expect Iran to be pushovers. They did well against Portugal last World Cup. But I reckon we should comfortably win this game by a 2-goal margin. And then Wales and America, I think, again, 1-goal margin, good games. I do have America just pipping Wales to second place in my predictions. I mean, unless we've got anything more to cover, I would say who are you having as the overall winners of the World Cup?
Good shout. Well, I think just judging on their squad, their depth from front to back, I think they're halfway through the tournament as well. And plus, they haven't won it for quite a while, and they're due to win it. I'm going to go with Brazil.
Yeah, same here. I mean, the great European hope for me is Holland, because they've just again got a great side. They've not had the best results in like the Euro leagues and things like that, and they were choked pretty badly at the Euro 2020.
Louis van Gaal knows how to get the job done with them.
So for me, like I said, the real final is probably semi-final one, in which you're going to have realistically 2 of Argentina, Germany, Brazil, and Holland. And on the other side, you've got the lesser sort of good big teams on the other side split. So the real final for me would be that semi-final, which I have down as Holland versus Brazil with, and I don't actually know who to predict. But so for me, it probably is going to be Brazil, probably because of that depth. But it'll be Brazil or Holland for me winning the World Cup. Holland might finally win it in the most controversial World Cup of all time.
Well, exactly, yeah. Good way for Louis van Gaal to finish his managerial career. And Gatesy, for you, mate, who's your pick of the tournament?
I've picked Argentina. I think this is Lionel Messi's last opportunity at winning the World Cup. They're on a 35-game streak, unbeaten, that stretches back to 2019. They won the Copa America in Rio, beating Brazil last year, which broke something of a streak of them not picking up an international trophy of, I think, stretched back 28 years from memory up to that point.
1986 last time they won anything.
Yeah, so yeah, I think it's Argentina, mate. I seriously do. I think it's going to take an awful lot to stop them. I think that Messi, he's not really sort of like significantly dropped off on his, where he's been over the last sort of 10, 15 years. Yes, he's not the player maybe he was five years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, but he's still one of the elite players in world football. And, he'll be able to change a game just like that. And I think that his teammates know that this is his last opportunity, and they'll be moving heaven and earth to try and make sure that they bring home the FIFA World Cup to Buenos Aires.
Well,
good selection.
I've got 2 words for you. Saudi Arabia, mate.
What about them? They're taking part.
Yeah, they're in the same group as Argentina, mate.
They're going to top the group and go all the way.
Mexico and Poland are going to have like a stalemate, and the last thing, Saudi Arabia are going to absolutely shit out Argentina 1-0.
Mike Bassett, Mike Bassett, England qualified for the World Cup. Was it Luxembourg drawing or whatever?
Yeah. Oh no. It was more. Iraq are looking a bit tasty this year in the airport, or the bit where where Pele at the end, England have qualified.
Yeah,
you got maybe surprised, maybe you have Korea, Japan.
Yeah. What about England?
Yeah. What about England? England qualified.
Well, I think we're certainly more interested than we were when Mike Bassett was released in early 2000s. All right, great. Well, Dennis, Gatesy, thanks very much for joining, lads. Hope it's a good World Cup, and I think it could go all the way. Whether we will or not, we'll find out. But come on, England, as we say.
Yeah, come on, England.
Come on, England.
Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe if you're new. Subscribe to Gatesy's channel as well. Links in the description below. We'll see you soon. Have a good tournament. Thank you. See you later.